The massive alien warship drifted through space like a metal mountain. Its hull gleamed silver under the distant stars, and energy weapons lined its sides like deadly teeth. Inside the command center, Admiral Zextar studied the reports on his desk with growing interest. "A new species, Admiral," his aide reported. "They call themselves humans. They live on a planet called Earth in a system they name Sol." Zextar looked at the data with his 4 eyes. Each eye could see different types of light, making him excellent at reading complex information. What he saw made him laugh. "A class Deathworld? Deathworld?" he said. "Nothing intelligent lives on those planets. The gravity is too strong. The weather changes too much. There are too many dangerous animals." His science officer, a thin creature with 6 arms, spoke up nervously. "Sir, our scans show they have ships. They have weapons. They seem to have built a civilization." "Impossible," Zextar replied. "No species can evolve intelligence on such a violent planet. These must be some kind of clever animals. Perhaps they learned to use tools." Far away, near the planet Earth, Commander Jake Peterson sat in his small ship reading the same kind of reports. His ship was called the Liberty, and it was much smaller than the alien vessel. Jake was a tall man with brown hair and calm blue eyes. He had spent 10 years in space, but he had never seen anything like this. "Amy, what do you make of this message?" he asked his communications officer. Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez was a smart woman with dark hair and quick fingers. She could speak 12 languages and understand computer codes that most people found impossible. She frowned at her screen. "It's definitely from aliens, sir," she said. "But the translation is weird. It says something about superior authority and submission. It might be a peaceful greeting, or it might be a threat." Jake looked at the message again. The computer had tried to translate the alien words, but some things did not make sense. The aliens seemed to be saying that humans should obey them because they were better and stronger. "Send a reply," Jake ordered. "Tell them we are peaceful, but we will defend ourselves if necessary." Amy typed the message and sent it through space. She did not know that the alien computers would change her words. Where she wrote, "We are peaceful," the aliens read, "We prepare for war." Where she wrote, "We will defend ourselves," they read, "We will attack you." On the alien ship, Admiral Zextar read the human reply and his anger grew hot. "They dare to threaten us?" he roared. "These primitive creatures think they can fight the hegemony? We have conquered 1,000 worlds. We have weapons that can destroy planets." His science officer tried to speak. "Admiral, perhaps there was a mistake in translation. These humans might not understand." "Silence," Zextar snapped. "I will not let some barbaric animals threaten the peace of the galaxy. Send word to the fleet. We will teach these humans their place." The science officer wanted to argue, but he knew better. Admiral Zextar was famous for his quick temper and his pride. Once he made a decision, nothing could change his mind. 3 days later, Captain Billy Stone was checking supplies on his exploration ship when his alarm started screaming. Billy was an older man with gray hair and steady hands. He had been exploring space for 20 years and he knew the sound of trouble. "What's happening?" he called to his crew. "Ships approaching the mining station on asteroid 47, his navigator replied. "They're not human ships, sir." Billy looked at his screen and saw 5 alien vessels moving toward the small mining station. The station was home to 30 people who dug valuable metals from the asteroid. They had no weapons except mining tools. At the mining station, Foreman Carl Murphy was eating lunch when the attack began. Carl was a big man with thick arms and a beard. He had worked in dangerous places all his life, from oil rigs on Earth to mining stations in space. He was not easily scared. "Everyone to the emergency shelter," he ordered when the first energy blast hit the station. But Carl knew the shelter would not save them for long. The alien ships surrounded the mining station like sharks around a small fish. They fired warning shots that lit up the darkness of space. Then a voice came over the radio, speaking in broken English. "Humans of the mining station," the voice said, "you will surrender now. You will come with us. You will not be harmed if you obey." Carl looked at his workers. They were miners, not soldiers. They had families back on Earth. They wanted to live. But something in Carl's heart said no. "This is Carl Murphy," he replied. "We are peaceful miners. We have done nothing wrong. Leave us alone." The alien voice became angry. "You will obey. Your species has threatened the hegemony. You are now prisoners of war." "Prisoners of war?" Carl laughed, but it was not a happy sound. "We never declared war on anyone." The alien ships moved closer. Carl could see them through the station's windows. They were beautiful and deadly like silver spears in the darkness. "Boys," Carl said to his workers, "looks like we got ourselves a fight." "But Carl," one of the younger miners said, "we don't have any weapons, we just have mining equipment." Carl smiled. "Son, you ever see what a mining laser can do to rock? Let's find out what it does to alien ships." The miners worked fast. They took apart their mining machines and turned them into weapons. Drilling lasers became guns. Explosive charges became bombs. Rock-moving equipment became armor. It was not pretty, but it might work. When the alien ships attacked, they expected the humans to surrender quickly. Most species in the galaxy gave up as soon as they were threatened. Fighting was rare and long battles almost never happened, but the miners fought back with everything they had. Carl's mining laser cut through the hull of one alien ship. The explosives damaged another. The aliens had never seen anything like it. "What are these creatures?" the alien commander asked his crew. "They use primitive weapons, but they will not stop fighting." On his ship, Admiral Zextar watched the battle with growing anger. A simple mining station was fighting his advanced warships. It was embarrassing. It was impossible. But it was happening. "Destroy the station," he ordered. "Sir," his science officer said, "our scans show unusual energy readings from the human weapons. Perhaps we should study them first." "I said destroy it," Zextar roared. The alien ships fired their main weapons. The mining station exploded in a ball of fire and metal. Carl Murphy and his workers were gone, but their message was clear. Humans would fight, even when they could not win. Captain Billy Stone watched the explosion from his ship. His hands shook with anger and fear. Those had been good people on that station. They had died because aliens decided humans were dangerous. "Send a message to Earth," Billy ordered. "Tell them we are at war." Admiral Zextar looked at the wreckage of the mining station and felt satisfied. The humans had been destroyed easily once he used his real weapons. They were weak, just as he had thought. "Prepare the fleet," he ordered. "We will go to their home system and finish this quickly. A few more attacks like this, and the humans will surrender." His science officer looked at the data from the battle. The human weapons had been crude, but they had caused real damage. The humans had fought until the end, never asking for mercy. This was not normal behavior for the galaxy's civilized species. "Admiral," he said quietly, "I recommend caution. These humans may be more dangerous than we think." But Zextar was not listening. He was already planning his victory parade. Dr. Linda Hayes looked at the alien blood sample under her microscope and shook her head in amazement. The sample had come from the wreckage of an alien ship that crashed near Mars. Linda was Earth's best scientist when it came to studying alien life, and what she saw surprised her. "The blood is blue," she told her assistant. "But more importantly, look at these cells. They're huge compared to human cells. And see how they move? Very slowly." Linda was a thin woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had spent her whole life studying life forms, from tiny bacteria to large animals. She understood how evolution worked and why creatures became the way they were. "What does that mean, Doctor?" her assistant asked. "It means these aliens evolved on a very different world than ours," Linda explained. "Their blood cells are big and slow because they never needed to work hard. Their world was probably very peaceful. No predators, no extreme weather, no need to run or fight." Linda walked to her computer and pulled up information about Earth. Pictures showed hurricanes, earthquakes, volcanoes, and wild animals hunting each other. Then she looked at data about alien worlds that humans had discovered. "Look at this," she said. "Every alien planet we've found has stable weather. The temperature never changes much. They have few dangerous animals. Everything is calm and safe. She turned to her assistant with excitement in her eyes. Don't you see? We evolved on a world that tried to kill us every day. They evolved on worlds that took care of them. We learned to fight. They learned to cooperate. Meanwhile, General Patrick Collins was meeting with Earth's military leaders in a deep underground bunker. Patrick was a big man with scars on his face from old battles. He had been a soldier for 30 years and had fought in wars all over Earth. Gentlemen, he said to the room full of officers, we need to understand what we're facing. These aliens have better weapons and ships than us, but they don't understand war the way we do. He pressed a button and a hologram appeared showing the battle at the mining station. Watch this. See how their ships attack? They line up in neat rows. They take turns shooting. They follow rules. The officers watched as the alien ships moved in perfect formation, never breaking ranks even when the miners fought back. Now look at how our people fought, Patrick continued. The hologram showed Carl Murphy and his miners using every trick they could think of. They hid behind cover. They attacked from unexpected angles. They used their equipment in ways it was never meant to be used. The aliens expected the miners to surrender after the first shot, Patrick explained. In their world, that's how fights work. Someone shows superior force, and the other side gives up. They've never seen anything like human stubbornness. One of the younger officers raised his hand. Sir, what advantage does that give us? Patrick smiled grimly. Son, humans have been fighting wars for thousands of years. We've learned every dirty trick in the book. These aliens think war is like a chess game with rules. We know war is about survival by any means necessary. On Mars Colony 7, Sergeant Danny Miller was getting ready for the first ground battle between humans and aliens. Danny was a tough Marine with short black hair and muscles built from years of training. He had fought in 3 wars on Earth before coming to Mars. Listen up, Marines, he told his squad. Intelligence says the aliens will land soon. They think we'll line up and fight them like gentlemen. They're going to be disappointed. His Marines laughed nervously. They were good soldiers, but they had never fought aliens before. Nobody knew what to expect. Remember your training, Danny continued. Use cover, move fast, don't play fair. These aliens want to conquer our homes. We're going to show them why. That's a bad idea. The alien ships landed on Mars just as the sun was setting. The ships were beautiful, made of gleaming metal with smooth curves. They landed gently like butterflies touching down on flowers. Danny watched through his binoculars as the alien soldiers came out. They wore shiny armor and carried weapons that glowed with energy. They moved in perfect lines like soldiers on parade. Look at that, Danny whispered to his men. They're marching like they're in a ceremony. They have no idea how to fight a real battle. The alien commander stepped forward and spoke through a translator device. Humans of Mars Colony 7, his voice echoed across the rocky ground. I am Commander Velon of the Hegemony 3rd Fleet. You will surrender your weapons and come with us. This is your only warning. Danny activated his radio. This is Sergeant Miller to all human forces. The aliens want us to surrender. What do you say we give them our answer? Roger that, Sergeant, came the reply from 20 different voices. Let's show them how humans fight. What happened next shocked the aliens completely. Instead of lining up for battle, the humans disappeared. They hid behind rocks in buildings and in holes they had dug in the ground. The aliens found themselves facing an empty battlefield. Where did they go? Commander Velon asked his soldiers. In galactic warfare, armies faced each other openly. Hiding was considered cowardly and against the rules. Danny's voice came from somewhere in the rocks. Right here, alien boy. A rocket exploded near the alien formation, sending several soldiers flying. The aliens tried to fight back, but they couldn't see their enemies. The humans attacked from all sides, using hit-and-run tactics that confused and frightened the alien soldiers. When the aliens shot at one position, the humans would attack from another. Lance Corporal Katie Brooks had set up her heavy machine gun behind a pile of rocks. Katie was a small woman, but she was one of the best shooters in the Marines. When a group of aliens tried to advance, she opened fire. The alien weapons were more powerful than human guns, but Katie's bullets were faster, and she could aim better. The aliens had to hide behind their own equipment while Katie kept them pinned. Down. An alien energy blast hit near Katie's position and sharp rock cut her arm badly. Blood ran down her sleeve, but she kept fighting. In galactic warfare, wounded soldiers always withdrew from battle immediately. The idea of fighting while hurt was unthinkable. "Brooks, you're hit," Danny called over the radio. "Fall back and get medical attention." "Negative, Sergeant," Katie replied, firing another burst at the aliens. "I can still shoot. These aliens aren't getting past me." Commander Velon watched his soldiers struggle against the humans with growing horror. His troops were better armed and better trained, but they were losing. The humans fought like wild animals, using tactics that violated every rule of civilized warfare. "They use their wounded as fighters," he reported to his ship. "They attack from hiding. They do not follow the proper protocols for combat." "Are you saying they are winning?" came the reply. Velon looked at his scattered forces and injured soldiers. "They are effective," he admitted. "Back on Earth, Doctor." Linda Hayes was studying more alien technology. She had discovered something important about alien psychology. She called General Patrick Collins immediately. "Patrick, you need to hear this," she said excitedly. "I've been studying their equipment and their behavior patterns. These aliens have never experienced real violence." "What do you mean?" Patrick asked. "Their weapons are designed for show more than fighting," Linda explained. "They're meant to look impressive and make the enemy surrender without a real battle. Their armor is pretty but not very practical. Even their military tactics are based on intimidation rather than actual combat." Patrick thought about this. "So they're not used to enemies who fight back?" "Exactly," Linda said. "On their worlds, fights are settled quickly. Someone shows they're stronger and the weaker side gives up. They've never dealt with an enemy that refuses to quit." Patrick smiled. "Then we have a real advantage. Humans never know when to quit." On Mars, the battle was ending. The aliens were retreating to their ships, carrying their wounded and looking confused. They had won some fights and lost others, but they had never experienced anything like human warfare. Danny Miller watched them go with satisfaction. His Marines had taken casualties, but they had held their ground. More importantly, they had taught the aliens something about fighting humans. "Good work, Marines," Danny told his squad. "Word is going to spread through the alien fleet. They're going to think twice before they mess with humans again." Katie Brooks was getting her arm bandaged by a medic, but she was smiling. "Sergeant, did you see how scared they looked when they realized we wouldn't quit?" "I saw it, Brooks," Danny replied. "And I think that's just the beginning. These aliens are about to learn why fighting Deathworlders is the most dangerous choice they could make." Dr. Linda Hayes finished her report and sent it to every human military commander in the solar system. Her message was simple but important. Humans had evolved to survive in conditions that would kill most alien species. That evolution had given humans advantages the aliens could not understand or counter. The war was just beginning, but humans were starting to realize they might have a chance after all. Admiral Zexitar stood in his command room looking at reports that made his 4 eyes burn with anger. 3 more alien ships had been damaged by human forces. 2 mining stations had been destroyed, but the humans kept fighting from the wreckage. His quick victory was turning into a long, expensive war. "Admiral," his communication officer said nervously, "the Galactic Council is asking for a progress report." Zextar's skin changed color from blue to dark purple, which meant he was very angry. "Tell them the humans are more stubborn than expected, but we will crush them soon." The communication officer hesitated. "Sir, Council Member Velthera specifically asked about our resource usage. We have used more fuel and ammunition in this fight than in our last 5 campaigns combined." "These humans are savages," Zextar roared. "They do not follow the rules of war. They attack when they should surrender. They fight when they should negotiate. But I will not be defeated by primitive animals." Far away in the asteroid belt, Captain Ryan Clark was preparing his ship for the most dangerous mission of his life. Ryan was a calm man with steady hands and quick thinking. His ship, the Defiant, was small and fast, built for hit-and-run attacks rather than big battles. "Captain," his weapons officer said, "we're approaching the alien formation. 5 enemy ships, including one of their big ones." Ryan looked at his crew. They were all volunteers who knew this might be a one-way trip. The plan was simple but crazy. They would attack the alien ships using tactics that no sane commander would attempt. "Remember, people," Ryan said. "These aliens expect us to fight like they do. Line up our ships, trade shots, follow the rules. We're going to do something they've never seen before." The alien ships were arranged in a perfect triangle formation, just like their military manuals taught. Each ship had its place and followed strict patterns. It looked beautiful and organized, like a deadly dance in space. Ryan's attack came from above and behind, from a direction the aliens never expected. The Defiant swooped down like a hawk attacking mice, firing every weapon it had. But instead of pulling away after the attack, Ryan did something that shocked everyone. "All power to engines," he ordered. "We're going to ram the big one." "Captain, that's suicide," his pilot shouted. "Maybe," Ryan replied calmly, "but it's also something they'll never expect." The alien commander saw the human ship coming straight at him and panicked. In galactic warfare, ships never deliberately crashed into each other. It was considered insane and wasteful. He ordered his ship to move, but it was too big and too slow. At the last second, Ryan pulled his ship to the side and scraped along the alien hull, tearing huge holes in their armor. His ship was damaged, but still flying. The alien ship was crippled and leaking air into space. "Did we just win by almost crashing?" his weapons officer asked in amazement. "We won by doing something they thought was impossible," Ryan replied. "Send word to the fleet. Tell them the aliens can't handle unpredictable attacks." On Earth, engineer Nancy Thompson was working 18 hours a day in her laboratory. Nancy was a smart woman who could look at any machine and figure out how to make it better. She had been studying captured alien technology for weeks. "The problem," she explained to her team, "is that we're trying to copy their designs exactly. But their technology is made for their way of thinking. We need to make it work for humans." She held up an alien energy weapon. It was sleek and beautiful, with smooth curves and glowing parts. It looked like a work of art. "This weapon is designed to scare enemies into surrendering," Nancy said. "It makes impressive light shows and loud noises, but it's not very good at actually destroying things quickly." Her assistant, a young man named Pete, looked confused. "But their weapons seem so powerful." "They are powerful," Nancy agreed, "but they're meant to wound, not kill. The aliens want their enemies to surrender and join their empire. They don't want to destroy everything." Nancy walked to her workbench where she had been modifying alien weapons. "But humans don't fight to conquer. We fight to survive. So we need weapons that stop enemies permanently." She picked up a modified alien rifle that looked much different from the original. It was bulkier and had human-made parts attached to it. It didn't look as pretty, but it looked more dangerous. "I've changed the power settings and added human targeting systems," Nancy explained. "It's not as elegant as the original, but it hits harder and aims better." Pete fired the modified weapon at a test target. The beam burned through 3 inches of steel in 1 second. The original alien weapon would have taken 10 seconds to do the same damage. "We're not trying to make art," Nancy said with satisfaction. "We're making tools for survival." Meanwhile, Colonel Frank Davis was working on a different kind of weapon. Frank was a psychological warfare expert who understood how to attack enemy minds instead of enemy bodies. He had been studying alien behavior and found their greatest weakness. "The aliens are afraid of us," he told his team. "Not because of our weapons, but because of our attitudes. They can't understand why we keep fighting when we should surrender." Frank had collected recordings of human military history, videos of ancient battles, famous last stands, and desperate victories against impossible odds. He was going to broadcast these to the alien fleet. "Show them the Battle of Thermopylae," Frank ordered. 300 Spartans holding off thousands of Persian soldiers. "Show them the Alamo, where Texans fought to the death rather than surrender. Show them D-Day, where humans crossed an ocean to fight for freedom." His communication officer looked worried. "Sir, won't this make them angry?" Frank smiled grimly. "It's going to terrify them. They're going to realize that humans have been fighting hopeless battles for thousands of years, and sometimes we win." The alien fleet received Frank's broadcasts with growing horror. The aliens watched humans charge into machine gun fire at the Somme. They saw kamikaze pilots crash their planes into enemy ships. They witnessed humans fight building by building through the ruins of Stalingrad. These creatures are insane, one alien captain reported to Admiral Zextar. They throw away their lives for concepts we do not understand. Honor, freedom, revenge. These are not logical reasons to die. They are animals, Zextar replied, but his voice sounded less certain than before. Intelligent beings do not behave this way. But the broadcasts continued. The aliens learned about human concepts like acceptable losses and tactical sacrifice. They discovered that humans would routinely send soldiers on missions where survival was unlikely. Most shocking of all, they learned that humans volunteered for these missions. On the moon, Major Lisa Garcia was preparing for the defense of Luna City. Lisa was a combat engineer who specialized in urban warfare. She knew that the aliens were planning to attack the moon's main city, and she was ready for them. The aliens think cities are for living, she told her soldiers. They don't understand that cities can be weapons too. Lisa had spent weeks turning Luna City into a maze of traps and ambushes. Every building had been modified for defense. Every street had been prepared as a battlefield. The city looked normal on the surface, but underneath it was a military fortress. When they come, Lisa explained, they'll expect us to meet them at the city limits. Instead, we're going to let them come inside. Then we're going to show them what urban warfare really means. The alien assault on Luna City began at dawn. 1,000 alien soldiers landed outside the city in perfect formation. They marched toward the city center expecting to find human defenders, waiting for them. Instead, they found empty streets and silent buildings. The aliens advanced cautiously, confused by the lack of resistance. They had studied human military tactics and expected a conventional defense. Lisa watched from her command post as the aliens moved deeper into the city. She waited until they were exactly where she wanted them. Now, she whispered into her radio. The city exploded into violence. Buildings that looked empty suddenly filled with human soldiers. Streets that seemed safe became killing fields. The aliens found themselves trapped in a maze where every corner could hide an enemy. The alien commander tried to retreat, but discovered that the streets behind him were now blocked. Lisa's engineers had collapsed buildings and created barriers that forced the aliens to keep moving forward into more traps. This is not warfare, the alien commander reported desperately. This is madness. The humans have turned their own city into a weapon. Fall back, Admiral Zextar ordered from his ship. Regroup and attack from a different direction, but there was no safe direction. Lisa had prepared for attacks from all sides. The aliens found themselves fighting an enemy that used their own environment against them. The battle lasted for 6 hours. When it ended, the aliens had lost half their force and gained nothing. Luna City was still in human hands, and the surviving aliens were traumatized by their experience. Lisa stood in the ruins of a building looking at the alien retreat. Her city was damaged but not defeated. More importantly, she had taught the aliens another lesson about fighting humans. Major, her radio operator said, Admiral Ward wants to know if you can do the same thing to other cities. Lisa smiled grimly. Tell the Admiral that every human city can become a fortress. The aliens want to conquer our homes. Let them try. We'll show them that Deathworlders don't just live in dangerous places. We make places dangerous. The news traveled through the galaxy like wildfire. On distant worlds, alien species gathered around their communication devices listening to reports about the war with humans. What they heard made them very afraid. The humans refused to surrender, reported one galactic news broadcaster. They fight until death. They use tactics that violate all known rules of warfare. Some military experts are calling them the most dangerous species ever discovered. On the planet Velthar, Council member Velthara watched these reports with growing concern. She was an old alien with purple skin and wise eyes who had seen many wars in her long life. But she had never seen anything like this. Admiral Zextar promised a quick victory, she said to her aide. That was 6 months ago. Now his fleet is scattered across 3 star systems, and the humans are actually winning battles. Her aide, a younger alien with green skin, looked at the latest casualty. Reports. Council member, some of our allies are asking if they should prepare their own defenses. They are worried that humans might attack them next. Velthara felt a cold fear in her heart. The humans have only been fighting one enemy. What would happen if they decided to fight all of us? Meanwhile, Captain Tony Martinez was leading the first major human offensive of the war. Tony was an experienced naval officer with black hair and scars on his hands from an old accident. His ship, the Vengeance, was leading a fleet of 12 human vessels toward an alien supply base. "Remember the plan," Tony told his captains over the radio. "We hit them fast and hard, then disappear before they can respond. The aliens still think in terms of big formal battles. We're going to show them what guerrilla warfare looks like in space." The alien supply base was located on a small moon that orbited a gas giant. It was supposed to be safe, far from the main fighting. The aliens had stored fuel, weapons, and food there for their ships. They never expected humans to attack so far from Earth. Tony's fleet approached the moon using a route that no alien commander would consider. They came from behind the gas giant using its gravity and radiation to hide their ships. It was dangerous flying that required perfect timing and expert piloting. "Target acquired," Tony's weapons officer reported. "The base has minimal defenses. They weren't expecting an attack." "That's their mistake," Tony replied. "Fire everything." The attack lasted only 10 minutes, but it destroyed 6 months' worth of alien supplies. The human ship struck like lightning and vanished before the alien defenses could react. By the time alien reinforcements arrived, the humans were gone. Thor. Attack sent shockwaves through the alien fleet. If humans could strike this far behind enemy lines, nowhere was safe. Admiral Zextar was forced to pull ships back from the front lines to protect his supply routes. Commander Susan Kelly was leading a reconnaissance mission when she made the discovery that would change the war. Susan was a small woman with quick reflexes and sharp eyes who specialized in gathering intelligence behind enemy lines. "There," she whispered to her team as they watched an alien research facility through their scopes. "That building is different from the others. See the extra security?" Susan and her team had spent 3 days sneaking through enemy territory to reach this facility. They had avoided alien patrols and hidden from search drones. Now they were about to learn something very important. "What do you think they're doing in there?" asked her demolitions expert, a big man named Chuck. "Only one way to find out," Susan replied. "Time to take a closer look." The team moved like shadows through the alien base. Susan had studied alien security patterns and found their weaknesses. The aliens were thorough but predictable. They followed routines that humans could exploit. Inside the research building, Susan found something that made her gasp. The aliens had collected videos of every human battle so far. They were studying human tactics like scientists studying strange animals. "Look at this," she whispered to Chuck. "They're trying to understand why we fight the way we do." The alien researchers had created charts and graphs trying to explain human behavior, but Susan could see they were completely wrong. They thought humans fought because of genetics or chemical reactions in their brains. They didn't understand concepts like courage, loyalty, or determination. "They think we're like machines," Susan realized. "They believe everything we do can be predicted with the right calculations." Chuck looked at the alien research with amazement. "They have no idea what they're dealing with, do they?" "None at all," Susan agreed. "And that's our biggest advantage." Susan's team downloaded all the alien research and escaped before being detected. The information they gathered would help human commanders understand how the aliens thought and how to use that against them. Admiral Helen Ward received Susan's report in her command center on the space station above Earth. Helen was a tall woman, with gray hair and the kind of steady confidence that came from 30 years of military service. She was now the supreme commander of all human forces. "This explains everything," Helen said after reading the report. "The aliens think war is like mathematics. Input plus strategy equals predictable output. They can't understand that humans don't follow mathematical rules when we're fighting for our lives." She called a meeting of all human military commanders. The meeting was held by video link since the commanders were scattered across the solar system. "Ladies and gentlemen," Helen began, We're going to launch the largest military operation in human history. We're going to hit every major alien base simultaneously. While they're trying to figure out our mathematical patterns, we're going to end this war. The operation was called Prometheus, named after the ancient Greek hero who stole fire from the gods. It would require perfect coordination across vast distances and split-second timing. General Patrick Collins would lead the ground assault on the alien main base. Captain Tony Martinez would attack their fleet positions. Major Lisa Garcia would defend Earth against counterattacks. Dozens of other commanders had their own missions. The aliens expect us to attack one target at a time, Helen explained. They think we'll follow logical military progression. Instead, we're going to hit everything at once. Their command structure can't handle that many simultaneous crises. The operation began at exactly midnight Earth time. Human forces struck 18 different targets in 6 star systems. The aliens had never experienced anything like it. The most important battle took place on a small asteroid where Private Bobby Chen found himself alone and surrounded. Bobby was just 19 years old, a kid from California who had joined the military to see the galaxy. He never expected to become a hero. Bobby's unit had been attacking an alien communication center when enemy reinforcements arrived. His squad was forced to retreat, but Bobby stayed behind to cover their escape. Now he was trapped with only basic equipment and dwindling ammunition. "Come on," he muttered to himself, checking his rifle. "Just hold them off a little longer." The aliens surrounded Bobby's position with 30 soldiers. They expected him to surrender immediately. Instead, Bobby did something that would become legendary throughout the galaxy. He fought. For 6 hours, one human held off an entire alien platoon. Bobby used every trick he had learned in training, and some he made up on the spot. He moved from position to position, never staying in one place long enough for the aliens to pin him down. The aliens couldn't understand what was happening. Their force was 15 times larger than Bobby's. They had better weapons and armor. By every logical calculation, they should have won in minutes. But Bobby wasn't fighting by logic. He was fighting because civilians were evacuating behind him and he wouldn't let the aliens pass. He was fighting because his squad needed time to escape. He was fighting because that's what humans do when everything depends on them. The battle was being recorded by security cameras and broadcast across the galaxy. Alien species watched in amazement as one human defied an entire army. Some aliens began to wonder if their leaders had made a terrible mistake by starting this war. How? "Is this possible?" Admiral Zextar demanded when he saw the broadcast. "One primitive soldier against 30 of our best troops." His science officer had no answer. All his calculations said the human should have been defeated quickly. But the human kept fighting, kept moving, kept finding ways to survive. When human reinforcements finally arrived, they found Bobby still fighting from a crater he had blasted in the asteroid's surface. He was wounded and exhausted, but he had held his position. The alien platoon was scattered and demoralized. "Private Chen," his commanding officer said in amazement, "do you realize what you've done?" Bobby looked around at the alien equipment, scattered across the asteroid. "I held the line, sir. That's what you told me to do." But Bobby had done more than hold a line. He had shown the entire galaxy what humans were capable of when they refused to give up. The image of one young human fighting impossible odds became a symbol that would be remembered for generations. Operation Prometheus was a complete success. The aliens lost most of their forward bases and half their fleet. More importantly, they lost their confidence. The war they thought would be easy had become a nightmare they couldn't understand. Admiral Zextar sat in his damaged command ship, looking at reports of defeat after defeat. His superiors were demanding explanations he couldn't give. His allies were abandoning him. Admiral Zextar stood alone in his command room staring at the screen that showed his broken fleet. Half his ships were destroyed or damaged. His supply lines were cut. His allies had stopped answering his calls for help. The war he thought would last days had dragged on for over a year. "Admiral," his communication officer said quietly, "the Galactic Council is demanding your immediate return to answer questions about the conduct of this war." Zextar's skin turned dark purple with rage and shame. He had promised the Council a quick victory over primitive humans. Instead, he had led the hegemony into the worst military disaster in their history. "Sir," his science officer added nervously, "our long-range scanners detect a large human fleet approaching. They will be here in 6 hours." Zextar looked at his remaining ships. He had 12 vessels left from a fleet that once numbered 50. The humans were coming with 25 ships, many of them built using captured alien technology. "We could try to negotiate," the science officer suggested. "Perhaps we could arrange a peaceful surrender." "Never," Zextar roared. "I will not be defeated by animals from a backward world. Prepare our most powerful weapons. If we cannot win, we will at least show these humans the true power of the hegemony." General Patrick Collins was leading the final human assault from his command ship. Patrick looked older now, with new gray in his hair and tired lines around his eyes. The war had been hard on everyone, but they were finally close to ending it. "All ships, this is General Collins," he announced over the radio. "Intelligence reports that Admiral Zextar is preparing to use weapons of mass destruction. He would rather destroy this entire system than admit defeat." Patrick looked at the tactical display showing both fleets approaching each other. This would be the last battle of the war, and it would decide the fate of both species. "Remember," Patrick continued, "we're not fighting for conquest. We're fighting to protect our homes and families. Stay focused, stay alive, and let's finish this." Captain Jake Peterson commanded the battleship Independence, the largest and most powerful ship in the human fleet. Jake had come a long way from the small frigate where he first encountered the aliens. Now he was facing their supreme commander in what would be remembered as the most important naval battle in human history. "Captain," his weapons officer reported, "the alien flagship is targeting us with their main weapon. It appears to be some kind of planet-killer beam." Jake smiled grimly. "Then we'd better make sure they don't get a chance to use it. All power to engines, we're going straight at them." The alien flagship was enormous, 10 times larger than Jake's ship. It bristled with weapons and armor that could withstand attacks from entire fleets. But Jake had learned something important during the war. Size wasn't everything. "Sir, that's suicide," his pilot protested. "They'll destroy us before we get close." "Maybe," Jake replied, "but they're expecting us to stay. At long range and trade shots like gentlemen, we're going to get close and personal." The Independence accelerated toward the alien flagship like a bullet fired from a gun. The alien weapons fired again and again, but Jake's ship was too small and fast to hit easily. The aliens had built their weapons for fighting other large, slow alien ships. Admiral Zextar watched the human ship approach with growing panic. This was exactly the kind of insane tactic that had been defeating his forces throughout the war. "Why don't they follow proper battle protocols?" he demanded. "Why do they always do the unexpected?" The Independence reached the alien flagship and began firing at point-blank range. Jake's weapons tore huge holes in the alien armor while the enemy's big guns couldn't turn fast enough to target him. "This is for everyone who died because you couldn't leave us alone," Jake said as his ship delivered the killing blow. The alien flagship exploded in a ball of fire that lit up the darkness of space. With their commander dead and their most powerful ship destroyed, the remaining alien vessels surrendered immediately. Dr. Linda Hayes arrived at the peace negotiations wearing her best dress uniform. Linda had become Earth's leading expert on alien psychology during the war, and now she would help create the peace that followed. The negotiations took place on a neutral space station, run by species that had stayed out of the war. Representatives from dozens of different alien civilizations watched as humans and the hegemony tried to work out an agreement. "The humans are demanding an end to all hostilities and recognition of their sovereignty," the mediator announced. "They also want assurance that no alien species will attempt to conquer or control them in the future." The hegemony representative, a nervous alien named Kexalon, looked around the room with fear in his eyes. "But the humans are dangerous," he protested. "They fight like wild animals. They refuse to follow civilized rules of warfare. How can we trust them not to attack us?" Linda stood up to address the assembly. She spoke calmly but firmly, knowing that her words would shape the future relationship between humans and the galaxy. Honorable representatives, she began, I understand your fears. Humans do fight differently than other species. We evolved on a world that tried to kill us every day, and we learned to survive by any means necessary. She activated a holographic display showing images from Earth. Beautiful forests and mountains, but also hurricanes, earthquakes, and predators hunting their prey. But you misunderstand our nature, Linda continued. Humans don't fight because we enjoy violence. We fight because we value freedom, family, and the right to exist. When you threatened those things, we had no choice but to defend ourselves. Andy, alien representative from the peaceful world of Zentara, raised her hand. But how can we be sure humans won't become conquerors like the hegemony? Linda smiled. Because conquering other species would mean becoming what we fought against. Humans fight to protect, not to control. We want to live in peace with our galactic neighbors, but we will always defend ourselves if attacked. The negotiations lasted for 3 days, but eventually an agreement was reached. The Terran Protection Zone was established, giving humanity control over a region of space around their home system. Any species that entered this zone would do so peacefully or face the consequences. Admiral Helen Ward became Earth's first galactic ambassador, responsible for maintaining relations with alien species. Helen stood before the Galactic Council, giving humanity's first official address to the galaxy. Fellow beings, Helen said, the war between humans and the hegemony has ended, but the lessons of that war must not be forgotten. Humans are not your enemies unless you make us your enemies. She looked around the vast chamber filled with representatives from hundreds of worlds. Some looked curious, some afraid, but all of them were listening carefully. We offer friendship to those who offer friendship in return, Helen continued. We offer trade, knowledge, and cooperation. But we also offer this warning. Never again assume that any species is weak simply because they evolved differently than you. The applause that followed was hesitant but genuine. The galaxy was learning to respect humans even if they didn't fully understand them. 5 years after the war ended, things had changed dramatically. Human ships traveled throughout the galaxy as traders, explorers, and peacekeepers. Other species had begun studying human military tactics, not to become aggressive themselves, but to better defend their own worlds. Dr. Linda Hayes published a book called Understanding Deathworlders that became required reading in alien military academies. Her work helped other species understand that evolution on dangerous worlds created traits that could be useful for more than just fighting. The human concepts of determination, sacrifice, and refusing to surrender had spread throughout the galaxy. Some alien species began training their soldiers in human-style tactics, though they could never quite match the intensity that came naturally to humans. Captain Jake Peterson, now an admiral himself, often spoke to young officers about the war. We didn't win because we were stronger or smarter, he would tell them. We won because we cared more about protecting our homes than they cared about conquering them. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Fighting Deathworlders wasn't just dangerous because of their superior combat abilities. It was dangerous because Deathworlders fought with a passion and determination that peaceful species couldn't match. Years later, when the Galactic Council faced threats from aggressive species in distant parts of the galaxy, they knew who to call for help. Human peacekeeping forces became legendary for their ability to stop conflicts that other species couldn't handle. The war that began with a misunderstanding had ended with understanding. Humans had earned their place in the galaxy, not through conquest, but through proving that some things were worth fighting for, and the galaxy was safer because of it. Admiral Zextar had been wrong about many things, but he had been right about one. Fighting Deathworlders was indeed the most dangerous choice ever. Dangerous for those who started the fight, but ultimately beneficial for everyone who learned from their example. The humans had shown the galaxy that sometimes the most peaceful outcome required being prepared for war. And in a universe full of unknown threats, that was a lesson worth learning.